I never thought I'd be the kind of guy who would enjoy watching someone else's downfall. But life has a funny way of changing you. 5 years ago, I was just Ben Wilson, a chemical engineer with big dreams and an even bigger heart. I believed in saving the world one polymer at a time. My lab coat was my superhero cape, and my microscope was my crystal ball into a better future. I was working on creating a fully biodegradable plastic that could revolutionize packaging worldwide. My salary wasn't impressive. Research grants only stretched so far. But I was happy, or at least I thought I was. My wife Emily didn't share my enthusiasm. "Ben, for God's sake, you smell like that damn lab again," she said one evening as I walked through the door of our modest two-bedroom apartment. She was sitting on our second-hand couch, scrolling through her phone, not even bothering to look up. "Can't you at least shower at work before coming home?" I sighed, dropping my bag by the door. "Sorry, I lost track of time. We had a breakthrough today with the polymer stability. I think we're getting closer to—" "Save it," she interrupted, finally looking up from her phone. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless despite it being 7 p.m. Emily always looked like she'd just stepped out of a magazine shoot. It was part of her job as a brand manager for Luxe Cosmetics, one of the fastest growing beauty companies in the country. "I've got a headache, and I really don't want to hear about garbage tonight." "It's not garbage, Emily. It's research that could help reduce plastic pollution worldwide." I tried to keep the hurt from my voice, but it crept in anyway. She rolled her eyes. "Right, saving the world one yogurt container at a time." Meanwhile, Jessica's husband just bought her a vacation home in the Hamptons. She stood up, smoothing her designer dress, one that I knew we couldn't really afford, but that she insisted was necessary for her career. "I've got dinner with the marketing team tonight." "Don't wait up." I watched her leave, noticing how she didn't even bother to kiss me goodbye. This had become our routine lately. We were like two strangers sharing an apartment, our lives moving in completely different directions. I heated up some leftover pasta and sat alone at our tiny kitchen table, surrounded by the silence of our increasingly empty relationship. That wasn't always like this. When we first met in college, Emily was studying environmental science. We bonded over our shared passion for sustainability. She was brilliant, full of ideas about corporate responsibility and green marketing. We'd stay up late talking about how we could change the world together. I still remember the first time I saw her, sitting in the front row of our environmental ethics class, her hands shooting up to challenge the professor on a point about corporate accountability. Her passion was magnetic. She wore thrift store clothes then, prided herself on her minimal carbon footprint. For our first anniversary, she gave me a hand-bound journal made from recycled paper. "For all your brilliant ideas that will save the planet," she'd written inside. But somewhere along the way, her focus shifted. The entry-level position at Luxe Cosmetics was supposed to be temporary, a way to get her foot in the door of the industry so she could eventually influence it from within. Instead, the industry changed her. The transformation was gradual. First came the clothes, higher quality, more expensive. Investment pieces, she called them. Then the longer hours, the networking events. She started talking about branding and market share more than sustainability. Her eyes would light up describing packaging designs, not the environmental impact of those same packages. I tried to be supportive, to understand. "It's different in the corporate world," she'd explain when I questioned the disconnect between her work and her former values. "You have to play the game before you can change the rules." But months turned into years, and rather than changing the rules, Emily seemed ever more eager to excel at the game. I should have seen the end coming. There were signs, the late nights, the weekend work emergencies, the new clothes, the subtle comments about our apartment being too small, my career being too niche. But love makes you blind, and hope makes you stupid. The breaking point came on our 5th wedding anniversary. I'd planned a special dinner at home, nothing fancy but meaningful. I'd spent weeks saving up to buy her a small emerald necklace, her birthstone. I knew it wasn't as luxurious as the jewelry her colleagues wore, but it was the best I could do. I spent hours preparing her favorite meal, butternut squash risotto, which I'd never quite mastered before. I practiced 3 times in the preceding weeks, determined to get it right. I bought candles, picked wildflowers from the park near our lab, Even borrowed a decent bottle of wine from my department head. The table was set, the risotto was simmering, and I kept checking my watch. Nervousness and excitement battling in my stomach. 6 o'clock came and went, then 7, then 8. I called and texted, but got no response. The risotto dried out. The candles burned low. I sat at our table watching the minutes tick by, each one taking a small piece of my hope with it. She didn't show up until nearly midnight, reeking of expensive champagne and wearing a dress I'd never seen before. "Where were you?" I asked, standing in our kitchen surrounded by cold food and unlit candles. "I've been calling you all night." She looked at me with something like pity in her eyes. There was an impromptu celebration at work. Robert secured the celebrity endorsement we've been chasing for months. Robert Thompson was her boss, the charismatic founder and CEO of Lux Cosmetics, a 40-something divorcee with perfect teeth and an investment portfolio to match. "Today is our anniversary," I said quietly. She had the decency to look surprised for a moment before her expression hardened. "Oh, right, I'm sorry. It slipped my mind with everything going on at work." "Everything going on at work," I repeated. "You mean Robert?" Her eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean? You think I don't notice? The texts at all hours, the way you talk about him, the new clothes, the late nights. I hadn't meant to have this conversation now, like this, but something in me had snapped. "You're being ridiculous," she said, but her eyes slid away from mine. "Robert is my boss. Of course we communicate frequently." "At 2 a.m.?" I asked, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "Because that's when your phone lit up last night, and the night before." "Are you spying on me now?" she demanded, anger flaring. "Checking my phone while I'm sleeping?" "I don't need to check your phone, Emily. I just happen to notice when it lights up the entire bedroom in the middle of the night, just like I notice when you come home smelling like someone else's cologne." "You're paranoid," she snapped, but her hand went unconsciously to her neck, where a faint mark was just visible beneath her carefully applied makeup. "Am I?" I walked over to the table where her anniversary gift sat unwrapped. I picked it up and held it out to her. "Happy anniversary, by the way." She stared at the small box in my hand, then back at my face. Something shifted in her expression, a flash of guilt, quickly replaced by resolve. "You know what? Fine, yes. Robert and I have been seeing each other," she finally said, her voice eerily calm. "And he makes me feel valued, Ben. He sees my potential. He doesn't expect me to be excited about recycled garbage for the rest of my life." The words hit like physical blows. "So that's it? 5 years of marriage, boy, and you're throwing it away for your boss? For money?" "It's not about the money," she said, but her eyes drifted to the modest emerald necklace box I'd left on the counter. "It's about ambition. Going somewhere. Having a real life, not just scraping by on idealism." "So our life together isn't real enough for you?" She sighed like I was a child who couldn't understand basic concepts. "Look at this place, Ben. Look at us. You spend your days playing with test tubes, making pennies, while I'm out there in the real world. I want more than this. I deserve more. And Robert can give you more." "Yes," she said simply, "he can." I stood there trying to process the complete dismantling of my life in the span of a few minutes. "How long has this been going on?" She hesitated. "Does it matter?" "It matters to me." She sighed. 6 months. Give worst take. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Of me thinking we were just going through a rough patch, that we could fix things. "Get out," I said quietly. "Ben, get out." My voice was steady, but my hands were shaking. "Pack whatever you need for tonight and go. I can't look at you right now." "This is my apartment too," she protested, but it sounded hollow. "And I'm the one who pays 60% of the rent," I reminded her. "Despite your supposedly prestigious job. So unless you want me to start calculating exactly how much of our furniture and appliances I've paid for over the years, I suggest you leave tonight and we can figure out the rest tomorrow." She stared at me for a long moment, perhaps surprised by my coldness. Finally, she nodded. "Fine. I'll go to Robert's." "Of course you will." She packed a bag in tense silence. At the door, she paused. I did love you once, Ben, but love doesn't pay the bills or build a future. I want to sell beauty to the world, not recycle its trash. I hope someday you understand." And just like that, she was gone, leaving me with an apartment full of memories and a heart full of betrayal. The next few days passed in a blur. Emily came back twice to collect more of her things, each time when she knew I'd be at work. 2 weeks later, the divorce papers arrived. She didn't want alimony. Robert's money made that unnecessary. Just a clean break. I signed them without reading most of the document. What was the point in fighting over the scraps of our life together? For weeks after, I was a zombie. I went to work, came home, stared at walls. My colleagues noticed but were kind enough not to pry too much. Dr. Patel, my department head, called me into her office one afternoon. "Ben, I'm concerned," she said, her eyes gentle behind her glasses. "Your work has been distracted lately. Is everything all right?" I hadn't told anyone at the lab about Emily leaving. Somehow, saying it out loud would make it too real. But Dr. Patel had always been more than just a boss to me. She was a mentor, someone I deeply respected. "Emily left me," I said, the words feeling strange in my mouth. "She's been having an affair with her boss. We're getting divorced." Dr. Patel's expression softened. "Oh, Ben, I'm so sorry." "Yeah, well," I shrugged, trying for nonchalance, but probably failing spectacularly. Apparently, my career goals weren't ambitious enough for her. She said she wants to sell beauty to the world, not recycle trash. "Doctor," Patel's eyes flashed with something like anger. "That's a remarkably short-sighted view. What you're doing here has the potential to change the world in meaningful ways. Try telling her that." "I don't need to tell her, Doctor," Patel said firmly. "The work will speak for itself. In fact," she paused, considering something. "I wasn't going to announce this until next week, but we've received additional funding from the National Science Foundation. They're very interested in your biodegradable polymer research. This grant will allow us to expand the team and accelerate the development process." For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of interest. "Russell, really," she confirmed, "this could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for, Ben. But I need you focused. Can you do that?" I thought about Emily, about her dismissal of my work, about the life we'd planned together that now lay in ruins. "Yes," I said finally. "I can do that. My best friend Dave tried to get me out, to meet new people, but I wasn't ready. Instead, I poured myself into my research. If my personal life was a dumpster fire, at least I could make progress professionally. And surprisingly, I did. 6 months after Emily left, our lab had a genuine breakthrough. We developed a polymer that was not only completely biodegradable, but also had tensile strength comparable to traditional plastics. The best part? It could be manufactured using existing equipment, making it commercially viable from the start. The night we confirmed the results, the entire lab team stayed late, running test after test to make sure we weren't missing something. When the final results came in, there was a moment of stunned silence. "We did it, Doctor," Patel whispered, staring at the data on the screen. "My God, Ben, we actually did it." The lab erupted in cheers. Someone produced a bottle of champagne from somewhere. In the midst of the celebration, Doctor, Patel pulled me aside. "This was your vision, Ben," she said, her eyes shining. "Your persistence made this happen." For the first time since Emily left, I felt something like happiness. Not the giddy, all-encompassing joy of being in love, but the solid satisfaction of achievement, of knowing I'd created something worthwhile. With Dr. Patel's guidance, we secured a patent for the process and formula. Then came the tricky part, finding investors who believed in what we were doing. It wasn't easy. Most venture capitalists wanted quick returns. And despite the growing awareness of environmental issues, many weren't convinced that consumers really cared about biodegradable packaging enough to make it profitable. We pitched to 20 different investment groups over the course of 3 grueling months. I got used to the skeptical looks, the pointed questions about market viability, the thinly veiled suggestions that we were naive idealists. 19 firms said no, often with condescending smiles and patronizing advice to come back when you have a real business plan. Their dismissal reminded me of Emily's words. Maybe she had been right. Maybe there wasn't a place in the real world for what I was trying to do. Then came our meeting with Sierra Venture Partners, a firm specializing in green technology. Their lead investor, Marion Chen, sat quietly through our presentation, asking pointed questions about scalability and cost. Unlike the others, her questions weren't designed to trip us up. They were genuinely probing, exploring the possibilities. At the end, while most of the room remained poker-faced, she simply said, "I like it. Let's talk numbers." 3 weeks later, with Sierra's initial investment of $2 million, we founded Ecoplast Inc. I left academia to become the company's chief science officer and co-founder. We leased a small manufacturing facility, hired a lean team, and got to work scaling up production. The first year was brutal. 18-hour days, constant technical challenges, moments of doubt when I wondered if we'd made a terrible mistake. Our first production run produced plastics that degraded too quickly, falling apart before they could be useful. The second run went too far in the other direction, creating materials that weren't breaking down as expected in industrial composting conditions. "We're burning through cash too quickly," our financial officer warned at the 6-month mark. "If we don't figure this out in the next quarter, we might have to consider shutting down." I didn't sleep for 3 days straight, working alongside our small team to identify the problem. On the fourth day, bleary-eyed and caffeine jittery, I had a realization. The catalyst we were using was interacting with one of the binding agents in unexpected ways. A minor tweak to the formula might solve everything. It did. Our next production run created plastics with the perfect balance, stable enough for commercial use, but completely biodegradable under composting conditions. We had our product, then came the harder part, convincing companies to use it. Our first client was a small organic food company called Nature Bite, looking to differentiate itself with truly sustainable packaging. Their purchasing manager, Trevor, was skeptical but willing to try a small order. "If this works, you'll have our entire business," he promised. "If it doesn't, well, we probably won't survive another packaging failure." It was a risk for both of us. I personally oversaw the production run for their order, checking and rechecking every parameter. When the packaging performed flawlessly, maintaining product freshness while beginning to break down exactly as promised in composting conditions, Trevor became our biggest evangelist. "You guys are the real deal," he told me 6 months later, as he signed a contract for 10 times his original order. "I've been telling everyone who will listen about Ecoplast." Word began to spread. More small companies signed on. Environmental bloggers wrote about us. Our team grew from 5 to 15, then to 25. We were still operating on tight margins, but we were surviving. Then, in our second year, everything changed. A documentary called Plastic Planet became an unexpected hit, graphically showing the devastation caused by plastic pollution. Scenes of sea turtles choking on grocery bags, remote beaches covered in microplastics, and massive garbage patches swirling in the ocean shocked audiences worldwide. Suddenly, everyone was talking about plastic alternatives. Major corporations started feeling the pressure from consumers. Environmental legislation began appearing in state houses across the country. Our phones wouldn't stop ringing. The irony wasn't lost on me. For years, I'd been saying exactly what that documentary showed, and people like Emily had dismissed it as irrelevant idealism. Now, suddenly, it was the hottest issue in consumer products. By year 3, we couldn't keep up with demand. We expanded our facility, then opened a second one. Our staff grew from 25 to over 100. Sierra invested another $10 million, and other investors were clamoring to get in. Major packaging companies started approaching us for licensing deals. I barely had time to process what was happening. One day I was a heartbroken scientist in a failing marriage. Now I was being called a green tech pioneer, an environmental entrepreneur. Business magazines wanted interviews. Universities asked me to give talks. A particularly surreal moment came when a major news outlet included me in their 40 under 40 list, with a photo caption that read, "Ben Wilson turning trash into treasure as Ecoplast revolutionizes the packaging industry." The words trash and treasure made me think of Emily. I wondered if she ever saw any of those articles. I wondered what she thought of the fact that my work with garbage had made me a millionaire on paper, at least. I didn't have much time to dwell on it, though. Running Ecoplast consumed every waking hour. I bought a new condo, but hardly spent any time there. Dave joked that I'd replace my marriage with a company. He wasn't entirely wrong. You need to get back out there, Dave insisted during one of our rare nights out. Meet someone new. It's been 2 years, man. Emily's moved on. You should too. I'm too busy, I protested. The company will survive without you being there every waking moment, he interrupted. Come on. My colleague Julia is smart, gorgeous, and single. Just one dinner. What's the worst that could happen? So I went on a date with Julia, then another with a woman I met at a conference, then one with the sister of one of our investors. They were all lovely people, but something was missing. Or maybe something was still there that shouldn't be. The ghost of my marriage, the fear of being betrayed again. Then came the watershed moment for Ecoplast. California Care, one of the largest natural personal care product lines in the country, wanted to transition all their packaging to our materials. The contract was worth $50 million over 5 years. The negotiations were intense, with their team pushing hard on price and exclusivity. The final meeting lasted 14 hours, with lawyers and executives from both sides hammering out the details until well after midnight. When we finally signed the deal, their CEO shook my hand and said, "This is the future, Ben. You're changing the industry." Our team celebrated until dawn. I sat in a corner of the bar, nursing a whiskey, feeling strangely detached from the festivities. "You should be dancing on the tables," Dave said, sliding into the booth beside me. "You just hit the big leagues, man." I shrugged. "I know. It doesn't feel real." "Is this about Emily?" he asked carefully. Dave was the only person who knew how deeply her betrayal had cut me. "No," I said automatically and then sighed. "Maybe a little. I keep thinking about how she said my work would never amount to anything, that I was wasting my life on trash." "Well, now you're the trash man with a net worth north of 20 million, Dave snorted. "Her loss." I nodded, but something still felt hollow inside. Success was sweet, but it hadn't healed everything. The following year, our breakthrough went mainstream. Ecoplast went public with a valuation of $500 million. My stake in the company made me wealthy beyond anything I'd ever imagined. I bought a house, nothing ostentatious, but comfortable and with the state-of-the-art home laboratory where I could tinker with new formulations. I also finally started dating more seriously. I met Rachel, a marine biologist, at a conference on ocean conservation. She was brilliant, passionate about her work, and refreshingly direct. On our third date, she looked me in the eye and said, "Just so you know, I've Googled you. I know about your ex-wife and what she did. If that's still an issue for you, I'd rather know now." I appreciated her honesty. It was an issue, I admitted. Probably still is in some ways, but I'm working on it. "Good," she said, "because I like you, Ben Wilson, and I'd hate for some gold-digging ex to ruin what could be something special between us." Rachel and I dated for 8 months. She helped me remember what it felt like to be with someone who shared my values, who didn't see my work as a stepping stone to something more glamorous. In the end, we parted ways amicably when she got a dream research position in Australia. We're still friends. She sends me photos of the Great Barrier Reef, and I keep her updated on Ecoplast's latest innovations. Life was good. I donated to environmental causes and set up a scholarship for underprivileged kids interested in green science. I had good friends, meaningful work, and enough financial security to never worry about money again. I thought I had finally moved on from Emily, until the day her name appeared in my inbox. The email was simple. "Ben, I hope this finds you well. I'd like to meet to discuss a potential business opportunity between Ecoplast and Lux. Please let me know if you'd be willing to talk. Emily Thompson." Thompson. She'd taken Robert's name. I stared at the screen for a long time. My first instinct was to delete it. My second was to write back something scathing. I did neither. Instead, I did some research. Lux Cosmetics, it turned out, was in trouble. A series of exposés had revealed that their manufacturing process was creating significant pollution. An investigative journalist had tracked illegal dumping of chemical waste from one of their main production facilities. Environmental groups were organizing boycotts, with young influencers posting videos of themselves throwing away Lux products in disgust. But the real blow came from pending legislation. Bills were moving forward in several states that would heavily tax non-biodegradable cosmetic packaging, exactly the kind Lux used for all their products. Analysts estimated it could increase their production costs by up to 40%. Their stock had dropped 40% in 3 months. There were rumors of impending layoffs. And according to industry gossip, Emily had recently been promoted to VP of Brand Strategy, tasked with revitalizing the company's image for an eco-conscious market. I leaned back in my chair, a strange feeling washing over me. For the first time in years, I thought about our anniversary night, about how she'd looked at me with pity and disdain, about how she'd said she wanted to sell beauty, not recycle trash. And now she needed my trash to save her beauty empire. I wrote back, "Emily, I'm available next Thursday at 2 p.m. at the Ecoplast headquarters. Please come alone." Ben. Her response came within minutes. "Thank you, Ben. I'll see you then." The week dragged by. I found myself distracted during meetings, wondering what she would say, how she would look. I hated that she still had this power over me. By Wednesday night, I was so wound up that I called Dave. "She's coming to beg for a deal," he said after I explained the situation. "Their whole business model is under attack, and your company has the solution. It's perfect." "Perfect for what?" I asked. There was a pause on the line. "For closure. Or revenge. Or both. I don't know, man. What do you want it to be?" That was the question, wasn't it? What did I want? I thought about it all night. By morning, I knew. Thursday came. I dressed with more care than usual. Nothing flashy, just my best suit and a good watch. I wanted to look successful, but not like I was trying too hard. My assistant buzzed me at 1:55. "Mrs. Thompson is here for your 2 o'clock. "Give me 2 minutes, then send her in," I said, my mouth suddenly drawing. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the city, deliberately giving her my back when the door opened. I heard her footsteps on the hardwood floor, the soft click as the door closed behind her. "Ben," I turned, and there she was. Emily looked good. Of course she did. Her blonde hair was shorter now, cut in an elegant bob. She wore a cream-colored designer suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Diamonds glittered at her ears and wrist, but there was something different about her eyes, a tightness, a worry that hadn't been there before. "Emily," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "It's been a while." "Yes." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You look great. Success suits you." "Thanks." I didn't return the compliment. Instead, I gestured to the sitting area in my office. "Please, have a seat." She sat primly on the edge of the sofa, placing her designer handbag beside her. I took the chair opposite, leaving the coffee table between us. "I understand congratulations are in order," I said. "VP of Brand Strategy is quite an achievement." She blinked, surprised that I knew. "Thank you. Yes, it's been challenging lately." I can imagine those pollution reports were pretty damning. And that undercover video of the waste dumping? Brutal stuff. Her smile faltered. "That's actually why I'm here. Lux is committed to making significant changes to our environmental impact. We're exploring partnerships with sustainable materials providers." "You mean you're desperately looking for a way to greenwash your company before the new packaging laws bankrupt you?" I said mildly. Her cheeks flushed. "That's not fair, Ben. We're genuinely trying to change our practices. After being forced to by public opinion and legislation," I noted. "Not exactly a moral awakening." "Business is business," she said tersely. "The important thing is that we're making changes now." "Right, and those changes include approaching the company run by your ex-husband? There must be dozens of sustainable packaging providers you could work with. Why Ecoplast specifically?" She met my eyes directly for the first time. "Because you're the best. Everyone knows that. Your materials are superior to anything else on the market." "Flattery," I said. "That's new." She sighed. "I'm not here to flatter you, Ben. I'm here to propose a business partnership that would benefit both our companies." "Go on." She straightened, slipping into her professional persona. We want to transition all Lux packaging to sustainable materials over the next 18 months. Ecoplast is the industry leader. A partnership between us would be beneficial for both companies. You'd have access to the prestige beauty market, and we'd have the most advanced biodegradable packaging available. Sounds reasonable, I nodded. Except for one thing. What's that? I don't believe you. She frowned. Excuse me? I don't believe that Lux suddenly cares about the environment. I think you're desperate because your toxic business practices have finally caught up with you, and now you need a quick fix to save your brand image. She stiffened. That's not true. Robert, the company has always valued sustainability. Right, I laughed. The same Robert who once called environmental regulations tree hugger nonsense that cuts into profit margins? I read that interview, Emily. It was quite illuminating. She shifted uncomfortably. People change. Companies evolve. When they're forced to, I added. But here's the real question. Why come to me personally? Ecoplast has a business development team. The proper channels would have been to approach them first. She hesitated, then sighed. I thought, given our history, you might be more receptive to a direct approach. Our history, I repeated. You mean the history where you left me for your rich boss because my work with trash wasn't prestigious enough for you? That history? Her eyes widened. Ben, that was years ago. We were different people. No, I said quietly. I'm still the same person, Emily. Still passionate about the same work. The only difference is now that work is valued by the world. And suddenly, it's valuable to you too. She had the grace to look ashamed, at least momentarily. I made mistakes. I'm not denying that. But this isn't about us. It's about business, a partnership that could help both our companies. And save your career, I added. Let's not pretend this isn't personal for you. Your promotion came with a mandate to fix this problem, didn't it? If you fail, you are done at Lux. She flinched slightly, telling me I'd hit the mark. How is Robert, by the way? I asked, changing tack. Still the devoted husband? Something flickered across her face. Pain, maybe, or anger. Robert and I are fine. His focus right now is on steering the company through this challenging period. I'm sure it is, I said. The quarterly reports suggest Lux might not survive another year without a major strategy change. That must be putting strain on everyone, including marriages. Her perfectly manicured nails dug into the leather of her handbag. My marriage is not relevant to this discussion. Isn't it? Last time we had a personal conversation, you told me you were leaving because Robert could give you the life you deserved. Is he still delivering on that promise, Emily? Stop it, she snapped, then quickly composed herself. This is completely unprofessional. I came here to discuss a business proposition, not to rehash our personal history. I studied her for a moment. The expensive clothes, the perfect makeup, the practiced corporate smile. But underneath it all, I could see the cracks, the strain around her eyes, the slight tremor in her hands. Emily was scared. Good. You're right, I finally said. Let's talk business. What kind of numbers are we looking at for this partnership? Relief washed over her face. For the next 20 minutes, she outlined Lux's proposal, exclusivity agreements, volume commitments, marketing tie-ins. The deal would be worth at least $100 million to Ecoplast over 5 years. It was, objectively, an excellent offer. When she finished, I nodded thoughtfully. That's certainly comprehensive. Hope flickered in her eyes. So you'll consider it. Consider it? I smiled. No, Emily. I don't need to consider it. I already know my answer. She leaned forward eagerly. And? It's no. She blinked, certain she'd misheard. I'm sorry. The answer is no, I repeated, standing up. Ecoplast will not be partnering with Lux Cosmetics. She stood too, confusion and alarm crossing her face. But why? The terms are more than fair. This would be hugely profitable for you. Ecoplast isn't just about profit, Emily. It never was. It's about values. And our values don't align with a company that spent decades polluting the environment and only changed course when forced to by public pressure. We can change, she insisted. That's the whole point of this partnership. Too little, too late, I shrugged. Our brand stands for authentic commitment to sustainability. Partnering with Lux would damage that reputation. This is because of our past, isn't it? She accused. You're punishing me for what happened between us. I looked at her steadily. This isn't about punishment, Emily. It's about principles, something you might not recognize anymore. You son of a bitch, she whispered, her corporate veneer cracking. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Watching me beg. I didn't make you beg, I pointed out. You came to me with a business proposal and I declined. Happens every day. Bullshit, she hissed. You could have had your team reject us through normal channels. Instead, you made me come here personally just so you could throw it in my face. Maybe, I admitted, or maybe I wanted to look you in the eye and tell you that some things can't be fixed with money and status. Some bridges, once burned, stay burned. She grabbed her bag, knuckles white. You've changed, Ben. You used to be kind. And you used to be genuine, I countered. Guess we've both learned some hard lessons. She moved toward the door, then paused. You know this isn't the end. Lux will find another supplier. We'll survive this. Maybe, I said. But here's what will happen next. Tomorrow, I'll announce that Ecoplast has declined a partnership with Lux Cosmetics due to concerns about their genuine commitment to sustainability. Our marketing team will phrase it politely, but the message will be clear. Even the leading green packaging company doesn't believe in Lux's environmental conversion. Your stock will drop another 15% minimum. Other suppliers will get cold feet. And everyone will know that the company's big strategy for rehabilitation has failed. The blood drained from her face. You wouldn't. It's just business, Emily, I echoed her earlier words. Nothing personal. She stared at me, speechless, before finally finding her voice. This won't bring you happiness, you know. Revenge never does. I'm not looking for happiness, I told her honestly. Just closure. She left without another word, the door closing quietly behind her. I sat at my desk for a long time, staring out at the city skyline. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt empty. Then I remembered the look on her face when I told her I knew about the waste dumping scandal. The fear in her eyes when I'd mentioned Lux's falling stock price. The way her hand had trembled slightly as she'd presented her proposal. Emily was terrified, not just of losing her job, but of watching everything she'd sacrificed our marriage for crumble around her, and suddenly I didn't feel empty anymore. I felt satisfied. I picked up my phone and called our PR director. Sarah, I need you to draft a statement about Lux Cosmetics. The news broke the next morning. As predicted, Lux's stock plummeted. Financial analysts began questioning the company's future. Environmental groups celebrated Ecoplast's ethical stance against greenwashing. What I hadn't anticipated was the personal fallout for Emily. Someone leaked an internal Lux email, not from me or anyone at Ecoplast, in which Robert Thompson blamed Emily for the failure to secure the Ecoplast partnership. Your one job was to leverage your personal connection to make this deal happen, he'd written. This catastrophic failure reflects a fundamental inability to deliver on your primary responsibility. The email went viral in industry circles. Emily's professional reputation took a massive hit. 3 weeks later, Lux announced a restructuring. Several executives were let go, Emily among them. I heard about it from Dave, who'd seen the news online. Damn, he said when he called me. They're throwing her under the bus completely. Thompson's giving interviews saying the whole rebranding strategy was her initiative, and that he had concerns from the beginning. That's corporate politics for you, I said, surprised at how little satisfaction I felt at the news. Loyalty only goes one way. Yeah, well, rumor has it there's more to it than that, Dave added. Apparently Thompson has a new protege, some 20-something marketing wunderkind. Word is they've been spending a lot of late nights at the office. History repeating itself. I almost felt sorry for Emily, almost. The business press called the Lux situation a bloodbath in the C-suite. Robert Thompson stepped down as CEO 6 months after that, following a shareholder revolt. The company was eventually acquired by a larger conglomerate at a fraction of its former valuation. I followed the news with detached interest. My focus was on Ecoplast, which continued to thrive. We expanded internationally, opened research centers, launched new product lines. The work was fulfilling in a way that revenge could never be. One evening, about a year after Emily's visit, I was leaving the office late when I noticed someone sitting on a bench in the small park across from our building. Something about the posture, the way the streetlight caught her hair, made me stop. It was Emily. She looked different. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. No diamonds, minimal makeup. She hadn't seen me yet. I could have walked away. Maybe I should have. Instead, I crossed the street. She looked up as I approached, not surprised to see me. "I wondered if you still worked late," she said softly. "Some habits die hard," I replied, sitting beside her, leaving space between us. "How are you, Emily?" She gave a small, bitter laugh. "How do you think? Unemployed, divorced, and practically blacklisted in the industry." "I heard about you and Robert," I said. "I'm sorry." "Are you?" she asked, looking at me directly for the first time. I considered the question. "Yes, actually, despite everything." She nodded, accepting this. "He left when things got hard. When the money started drying up. Turns out his promises weren't worth much in the end." "That must have been difficult," I said, surprised to find I meant it. "You know what the worst part is?" she continued, staring at nothing in particular. "It wasn't just losing the job or the marriage. It was realizing that none of it was real. The status, the prestige, the so-called success. It was all just smoke and mirrors." We sat in silence for a moment, the evening traffic creating a backdrop of white noise. "Do you remember that environmental ethics class where we met?" she asked suddenly. Professor Harrington's lecture on the difference between intrinsic and instrumental value. I nodded. It had been a formative discussion for both of us. The idea that some things had value in themselves, not just as means to other ends. "I lost sight of that somewhere along the way," she said quietly. "I started seeing everything, my work, my relationships, even myself, as instruments to get something else. More money, more status, and in the end, I had none of it, and no intrinsic value to fall back on." I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to comfort her. Another part remembered the cold way she'd dismissed our life together, dismissed me. "Why are you here, Emily?" I finally asked. She sighed. "Honestly? I don't know. Closure, maybe. Or just to see you one last time before I leave town." "You're leaving?" "I've taken a job with a small nonprofit in Oregon. Environmental education for kids." She smiled wryly. "The pay is terrible, but it feels right somehow." "That sounds like a good fit for you," I said, genuinely meaning it. "The you I knew in college, anyway." "I'm trying to find her again," Emily said quietly. She hesitated, then added, "For what it's worth, I'm proud of what you've built, Ben. Not because it made you rich or successful, but because it's making a difference. That's what I lost sight of somewhere along the way." She turned to leave, then paused. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that you were right all along, about the work, about what matters." I watched her walk away, a strange mix of emotions swirling inside me. There was still hurt there, still anger, but the sharp edges had softened. "Emily," I called after her. She stopped, turning back. "Good luck in Oregon." She smiled, a real smile this time, not the practiced corporate version. "Thanks, Ben, and congratulations on everything you've built. The world needs more people like you." I never saw Emily again after that night. Sometimes I wonder what happened to her, if she found what she was looking for in Oregon, if she rediscovered the person she used to be. As for me, life went on. Ecoplast continued to grow and innovate. We developed new materials, expanded into new markets. The work remained challenging and fulfilling. I started dating again, more seriously this time. I met Amanda at a charity gala for ocean conservation. She ran a marine wildlife rescue organization, was brilliant, funny, and completely unimpressed by my success. On our third date, she called me out for checking my phone during dinner. "Ecoplast will survive without you for one evening," she said firmly. "If we're going to do this, I need you present when we're together." She was right, of course. I'd used work as a shield for too long, a way to avoid dealing with the emotional fallout from my marriage. Amanda helped me find balance again, to remember that there was more to life than the next business milestone. 2 years later, we were married in a small ceremony on the beach. Dave was my best man. Dr. Patel sat in the front row, beaming like a proud parent. It was simple, meaningful, and completely aligned with our values. Exactly what Amanda and I both wanted.